Good morning and welcome to Morning Movie News. First off, your Marvel Phase 3 videos are due by the end of today. What is the end of today? Well, there's a little bit of leeway there. Basically, I'm going to start downloading the videos and will be accepting no more when I wake up tomorrow on Saturday. So our foreign friends, those of you watching BTT from outside of the United States, have a little bit of extra time. But it's basically 24 hours from now. And again, this is what you have to do if you want to participate in the third episode of BTT Voice. You film a 30-second, approximately 30 seconds, but please keep it to around 30 seconds because it's just too much for the editor to go through otherwise. So keep it to around 30 seconds and share your thoughts on Marvel Phase 3. What you like about it, what you don't like about it, what you're worried about, what you wish was there, what you're happy is there, basically anything that you want to say. Upload it to YouTube as an unlisted video, not private, unlisted. And then send that unlisted link to me at grace@gracerandolph.com. Please don't send me the actual video. I cannot download it. It's too risky for viruses. No offense, I'm sure you and your computer are wonderfully clean, but I just can't take the risk. So upload those videos to YouTube by the end of today and get me those links. I already have a number of wonderful submissions from you guys, but I just want to make sure everybody gets to participate who would like to. All right, so let's move on to today's morning movie news. Everybody wants a piece of Chris Pratt. He is a breakout star for Guardians of the Galaxy. As you might recall, while I didn't like the movie, I was pretty sure Chris Pratt would become a star because of it. I think he's become quite the lead actor, and I see shades of Harrison Ford in him. And now as he tries to build a career, I think he will maybe benefit from looking at Harrison Ford's choices, back in the day, before he totally derailed his career. And then also somebody else very interesting. Oh, heck, I'll tell you who it is right now. Channing Tatum. I think right now Channing Tatum is doing a little bit of a better job building his career than Chris Pratt, but Chris Pratt's new to the game, and let's see what he decides to do. Now, he's already turned down some very big roles. He would turn down the lead in The Mummy, the new Universal The Mummy, which is a weird thing because I thought they were trying to go away from the Brendan Fraser version, but is not Chris Pratt like a new Brendan Fraser? Or as I've been thinking, perhaps a new Ryan Reynolds? Ryan Reynolds must be like, darn it, Chris Pratt took my gigs. I'll never come back now, although Ryan Reynolds, I don't think that there was a chance for you to come back. You've done too much damage. So I think Chris Pratt is an interesting choice for that, but that sounds to me like they want to do a redo of the Brendan Fraser version, which is great. I'm sure it still holds up. I haven't seen it in a while, but I recall those movies being fantastic. But anyway, Chris Pratt said, no, I don't want to do that. Then Sony said, hey, would you like to star in our Uncharted movie? And he said, no, I don't want to do that either. And they were like, darn it. So then they were like, what do you want to do, Chris Pratt? And finally, he got an offer to adapt, to have the lead role in an adaptation of an Image comic. Image Comics, of course, is the indie label that exists right now. It kind of took the place of Vertigo. They fired Karen Berger over at DC. I believe DC was like, hey, why do we have so many creator rights over here at this label? This is ridiculous. Well, Warner Brothers said that when they were trying to make, to do something with those properties. And they were like, well, actually, you owe quite a bit to the creators because that's how Vertigo works. And Warner Brothers was like, I don't like this division. So Vertigo is really just a shadow of what it once was. And I think to a large extent it's just playing out the titles that were already going under Karen Berger's reign. People thought she'd come back. She didn't come back. She disappeared. She didn't start any imprints over at Simon & Schuster or some other publishing company, and it's just very sad. But anyway, that was the rise of Image Comics. They filled in that space. And actually, I buy more Image Comics these days than DC, although I am buying Robin Rises because I love Damian Wayne. But anyway, so Image, very successful. They have some great comics. I highly recommend you check out Image Comics. Saga, Alex and Ada, East of West, and now, of course, Cowboy Viking Ninja, which is the property that Chris Pratt is considering starring in. I've never heard of it. It sounds to me like one of those comics that, these days, because comics are such a hot movie property, a lot of talent is making a comic for the sole purpose of putting it in the hands of a development executive at a studio or a production company. They have no intention of selling any copies to you or ever reaching the public as a comic. And I think that's largely the case with Cowboy Viking Ninja. Now, some people are familiar with it. It has a small fan base and a potent fan base, so apparently it's pretty good. Oh, by the way, if you want to read a really good Image comic, go pick up Nowhere Men. So amazing. It's a little slow in the beginning, but once you get through the first issue, you will be hooked. Basically, when they get to space, you'll be like, this is one of the most amazing things I've ever read. I read it in 24 hours. That's how good it is. So it's on Comixology. I'll actually put a link in the video description. So anyway, Cowboy Viking Ninja. Chris Pratt's like, oh, this sounds totally like my kind of thing, or actually something that Andy would like on Parks and Recreation. So he's like, I'm tentatively on board for this, but I have to see who you sign on as a director. So if this would be a big win for Image Comics to get Chris Pratt on board, and Image Comics, of course, is the company behind The Walking Dead. So they're really doing a fantastic job building their label and their brand. So kudos to them, and they, again, put out some fantastic comics. So what is Cowboy Viking Ninja? Well, it's about a government group of agents that are recruited from mental hospitals, and they want people with multiple personality disorders, and they call them triplets because they have 3 personalities, and each one of them is something to contend with. For instance, their deadliest agent is Cowboy Viking Ninja, which means he has 3 personalities, that of a cowboy, a Viking, and a ninja. However, something goes wrong within the organization, apparently, and it's up to this deadliest member, Cowboy Viking Ninja, to take down other members of this group. So he's going to have to fight other triplets. So I think a lot of the fun and comedy will come from, well, what are the other combinations out there? I think on paper it sounds pretty good. I don't think it's actually a good fit for Chris Pratt, though. I think this would be a good choice for someone like Brad Pitt, someone who can add a little bit of drama to the role. I think that Chris Pratt's going to make it very silly, very comedic, and maybe even make it skew a little bit too young. Now, granted, he could surprise us. He could surprise me. Some of you might have tremendous faith in Chris Pratt, but so far I haven't seen a lot of gravitas from him. So I would want an actor who had a little bit more range. I think that Chris Pratt is like Ryan Reynolds. He is like Brendan Fraser. And I think that those actors would have had the same problem with the role. So if I was advising Chris Pratt, I'd be like, don't take this. What do I think that he should take? Well, I think maybe he should consider doing a thriller. Harrison Ford did a lot of great thrillers like Presumed Innocent or Frantic, very good movies. They weren't as big box office grossers as his blockbusters, but Chris Pratt already has those lined up. He has Guardians of the Galaxy. He's a part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is already set for theaters, and I'm sure he's going to be a part of the whole Marvel Cosmic, thing they're planning with the Avengers Infinity War 2 movies, Captain Marvel, and the Inhumans. So I'm sure he'll probably show up there to some degree. So he's slated there, and also he has the Jurassic Park franchise he's taking over as the star of Jurassic World. So he's set in that area. So I think he would be better served to flesh out himself as an actor and to prove that he is somewhat dynamic in that role and isn't just one note. He's not just Andy, but to varying degrees. So that's what I would suggest for him. And the reason I said Channing Tatum is doing such a much better job with his career is that he has the big franchises. He was in G.I. Joe, but 22 Jump Street, the Jump Street films are very big for him. Magic Mike is developing into a big franchise for him. But then also look at him. He's doing Foxcatcher, getting a lot of attention for that. I think he's very good in the movie, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him get some nominations this award season. And then, of course, Tarantino just signed him on for The Hateful Eight. Why didn't Chris Pratt think to call up Tarantino? I just think that that's the direction Pratt should be going in. He should be trying to diversify his portfolio. It's just like stocks, but same for actors. And I think he's just buying the same. He's just doubling down on Coca-Cola. And I guess you could argue you can never have too much Coca-Cola stock, but what kind of, is that really a long-term game plan? So we'll see. I'm curious to what you think. How does Cowboy Viking Ninja sound to you? Do you think that that's a good role for Chris Pratt? Do you think he was crazy to turn down The Mummy or Uncharted? And what do you think of Channing Tatum versus Chris Pratt, and also the comparison I made with Brendan Fraser and Ryan Reynolds? All right, so write your thoughts down below. Let's move over to the second story, which is Frozen, the movie that will not go away. And Disney couldn't be happier. They don't want it to go away. They are perpetrating this snowstorm across consumer America and the world, but particularly the United States. So there was a really interesting article earlier this week in the New York Times, and I put a link down below in the video description to it, talking about how Disney has just really made this into a cash cow. Well, no duh, but there are some interesting details in the article. And also the article just talks, I think, about, stupid hair, sorry. The article just talks about brand building and making money off of Hollywood movies right now, and how that's a little bit difficult to do. But Frozen has really been the exception. Now, so far, Bob Iger runs the Disney company, has said that Frozen has earned them $1 billion in merchandising for the year. That's stunning. And as you might recall, there was that story that they sold like 3 million or 4 million Elsa and Anna dresses this year, which this article points out is the number of 4-year-olds in the United States. Now, of course, it was over a couple of ages, but that's just amazing coverage. I mean, of course, I'm sure this Halloween especially, you saw Elsas everywhere you went. They say Annas are in there, but I never see an Anna. I always see Elsas. And they're also bringing out Elsa wedding gowns, in the style of Elsa from Disney, in just a a short amount of time, basically. So they are aware that adult women want to dress up as Elsa as well. But then also the article does a good job of pointing out that the price point they've kept pretty low, pretty much with the exception of the wedding gowns and also this Norwegian tour that they're going to be offering where you can see the different parts of Norway that inspired the movie. But largely the Frozen merchandise is under $100. Now, by the time you are done buying all of it, it's not under $100, but I think that's very clever. Something you might have noticed in some stores. The Warner Brothers store used to be really good at this, and I think even a place like Tiffany's is pretty good. But stores that try to appeal to a wide demographic and be a place where pretty much anybody can shop, try to make sure that they have a wide range of price points. So the idea of a store is that basically you can walk in and anyone can buy something, depending on not only your income, but just what you feel like spending. But you can walk away with something really nice. And I think that's really important to have a wide range. Maybe you want to treat yourself. You have to have something for those people. Maybe you want to buy someone a really impressive gift. Maybe you just want a little trinket, just a remembrance of the day. Or if it has a store that has a good image, even like Tiffany's. Tiffany's, the reason I bring that up is because you would think it would be a high-end store, and it is to some degree, but they're very smart at making it to the point where pretty much anybody can walk out of there with something. A pen, a little notepad, something. And I think that's very clever because it just makes you feel nice about the experience. It's very smart from a marketing and business perspective. And Disney is very good at that. So, you can go into the Disney store and you can buy a dress or you can just buy a pen, something that has Elsa's face on it. Or Anna's. They swear there are Anna fans out there. Maybe there are. If you are an Anna fan over Elsa, share that down below and why that is. But I just thought that was a really great story. And also they pointed out that the Disney on Ice show is a really profitable show. Like it's doing better than most shows that take over arenas where there's an ice skating rink. And it's just, if you think the Frozen mania is dying down, it is not. It is still going incredibly strong. And where the heck is Frozen 2? Where's even that Frozen short? I think that Disney really should be I would say every animator in the building, stop what you're doing and make Frozen 2. All right, so that's the second story of the day. Now, on the third story, we have someone who's not quite so up on their luck, and that's Andrew Garfield. Now, when do you know that someone's career is genuinely in trouble? When they consider making a movie with Mel Gibson. Now, Mel Gibson is very talented, but I think he really has a hard time recovering from all the damage he did to his image. Some of you disagree, but just look at his box office numbers ever since that, right? They just have not been able to rebound. So what is going on here? What's this project? Well, it looks like Mel Gibson's going to direct, and he's a fantastic director. He hasn't directed since Apocalypto, but if you go watch a Mel Gibson movie, you will be impressed, particularly The Sun is Rising yet. It's truly morning movie news. So anyway, I had to close my shades because it's so bright, but still summer's getting through. It's a sunny day here in New York City. So anyway, Mel Gibson's going to direct, and Andrew Garfield would star. So what's the storyline? Well, it's something that Mel Gibson's been trying to get made for a very long time, and it's a true story about a war hero who started out as a pacifist. And of course that idea, he was drafted, so he had to fight, but he refused to, bear arms because of his religion. He would not bear arms. And of course that wasn't a very popular decision among his fellow troops. He became a medic and then went on to save the lives of 75 soldiers during this battle and ended up winning the Medal of Honor. So that sounds like a great story, right? So I think it's a very good choice, and I could see why Andrew Garfield would be tempted to star in it and why Mel Gibson would say, hey, I'd like to direct this. But I really do feel that Mel Gibson, I don't know if he can come back. And I think that Andrew Garfield is having enough problems being considered toxic in and of himself to the Spider-Man, the Amazing Spider-Man franchise, that I'd be like, hey, don't double down on toxicity by standing next to Mel Gibson. But it's a great story to the point where I'd say, hey, Mel Gibson, maybe you should consider just producing this and stepping back and executive producing it and let somebody else tell this story. Because how ironic is it that somebody who says, whose father believes the Holocaust was made up, who says very anti-Semitic things and very misogynistic comments, would go and tell this story of a pacifist. Now, of course, anybody should be able to tell any story, ideally, right? But I just think it's too much baggage. And I still believe, and I believe so far I've been proven correct, that he just can't rebound. Look at the box office numbers. The box office numbers are the bottom line, and they have not been able to rebound. So we'll see. All right, so those are the three stories of the day. Now on to the viewer question from FB Diamond Mind, who has a very good point. Now, actually, FB Diamond Mind's name is Sandra. So Sandra has an excellent point. Sandra says, question, why has Misty Knight not been mentioned when talking about the Iron Fist and Luke Cage series on Netflix? Are they just going to leave her and calling Wing out? I'm not sure what Misty is doing in the comics today, but she was an important character to both Luke and Danny. I was very surprised that you didn't mention her, Grace. Me too! Thank you for bringing her up, Sandra. Thanks for taking the time to read my question. Of course, thank you for asking it, and I'm so glad you brought Misty Knight into this conversation. Colleen Wing, basically for those of you who aren't familiar with Misty Knight and Colleen Wing are like these two female version almost of Luke Cage. Like they fight on the streets, and they're these two women, and they are also good at martial arts. And Misty Knight has a robotic arm, which is pretty cool. And they really hang out with this crowd. And as Sandra pointed out, they're a big part of Luke Cage and Iron Fist's origin stories. They're very important to them. But of course, not Jessica Jones is the character that Luke Cage ends up marrying, etc. And I think that's the area they're trying to focus on. But I agree, Misty Knight should be included here and would also make for her own great TV show because she runs a group recently called Heroes for Hire. Sandra, you said you wondered what was going on with her in the comics. Well, for a while she's run Heroes for Hire. And basically what that is, it's an organization run by Misty Knight. She's kind of like Oracle, Barbara Gordon in the Batman series, or before she became Batgirl again. Just home base of operations, or like M with James Bond. And she will hire heroes, often mercenary type heroes, so they're not clear-cut heroes, to do a job for her. And the fun thing is she pairs up these heroes for these different missions that are kind of odd couple pairings. And that just sounds tailor-made for television, doesn't it? Each episode would focus on a different hero for hire, and in different combinations. You could have people come back, but maybe not paired up with the same person. And it also explored Misty Knight's personal life as well. Of course, she became involved with one of her heroes for hire. It was very good. It was the most recent incarnation of this series that I recommend that you pick up. It started in 2011, and it's written by Dan Abnett and Andy Lanning, a fantastic duo for writing and comics, who also did a really good job resurrecting Guardians of the Galaxy, and that certainly turned out very well. So Misty Knight, Sandra, is a great character. I hope she does show up. She just might, because of course there's Karen Page in the Daredevil series. Rosario Dawson is playing this, variation on Night Nurse. So there are other female characters being introduced here. So maybe when the Luke Cage series does come along, or the Iron Fist one, I believe Misty Knight and Iron Fist had a relationship. I don't remember for sure, but I think in one of those, Misty Knight should show up. And, it would be great if Rosario Dawson were to play her, but, we talk a lot about, dark-skinned actresses of color not getting as much opportunities as lighter-skinned actresses, so I think Misty Knight would be a great opportunity for that. And she would have a robotic arm, and she would kick butt, and she would run this organization, she'd be a businesswoman. It's a great idea, Sandra, and I'm glad that you brought it up, and I hope somebody is mentioning it to the folks over at Netflix Marvel. But I wouldn't be surprised if she's on their radar already. So thank you everybody for tuning in. That's today's morning movie news. Write down below what you think of today's top 3 stories and the viewer question. Anything you'd like to see covered on Monday, any questions that you might have. And of course, don't forget those Marvel Phase 3 videos by the end of the day, 30 seconds long, unlisted link on YouTube to me at grace@gracerandolph.com. Thanks for watching. Bye.